The good old clap, take one.
That's right.
How many of you knew what you wanted to be when you were 7 years old? I did. I wanted to be world champion.
Hey, is there honesty involved in this podcast? Can we be honest?
You can shut your fucking lips.
And then I'll just say, put them up, what? Let's go.
He's like, you look too pretty on the wave. Get ugly.
We can talk about DMT if you want.
I thought we were boxing.
All right, so we have Caroline Marks, Championship Tour superstar and North American world title contender on the lineup. Caroline, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's good to be back.
Yeah, we're honored actually because you and your episode is marking our 100th episode, which we didn't think we'd get to, but it's special. But how are you doing today? Where are you today? Who are you hanging out with?
I'm doing good. I'm currently in San Clemente, California, heading out to Hawaii tomorrow. So just trying to soak in my last day. I've been hanging out with my family a ton. Have my mom and brother in town. They're going to be heading over there with me. So I'm really excited about that and excited to get in some warm weather. How are you doing, Dave?
It's been cold, and the waves have been pretty fun up here in Ventura County, but I had this moment the other day where I'm like, I don't know if it's me and I'm getting older, but I'm cold and I've got like really good wetsuits and I feel great when I'm surfing, but I'm like, I am cold. And I went and checked the water temps and I'm like, oh yeah, it is we're around like 54 degrees up here. And that's a little bit colder than it usually is in winter, but I'm like you, I'm looking forward to getting over to Hawaii here in about a week and just change of surf attire, if nothing else.
Absolutely. No, I'm from, being from Florida, it's the cold weather is not my favorite thing in the world. So, yeah, if I can never put on a wetsuit again, that'd be awesome. But we love it, and it's like you said, the waves have been really fun here, so it's cool. But definitely looking forward to surfing all day in a bikini. It should be awesome.
Well, this episode's going to drop days away from the commencement of the 2022 WSL Championship Tour, with the season starting at the Billabong Pro Pipeline on January 29th. This is the first time that the Women's Championship Tour will be competing formally at Pipeline. What has been your preparation like? What's it been like for your preparation for this event in the lead up? Have you been surfing specific spots? Have you been working on fitness or equipment or a little bit of everything? How have you kind of approached the start to this season?
Yeah, it's so exciting. We're starting at Pipeline. It's kind of crazy. I think coming into Pipeline for me, it's I think of, I don't know, I feel like all the girls that are, on the tour now have never really, surfed an event out there. I know maybe a few have an expression session, but it's kind of new for everyone. And that, to me, that's really exciting. No one really has an advantage. And it's kind of just like a, open playing field and you just don't really know what's going to happen. So I did go out to Hawaii over Thanksgiving and try to spend a bunch of time out at Sunset and at Pipe. And, I think the best practice for Pipeline is surfing Pipeline. So just trying to figure out the lineup, even if I didn't catch any waves or whatever, just trying to see what the best guys out there were doing and just really trying to soak it in and just get, I think the more and more time you spend out there, the more comfortable you get. So, Pipeline has so many different personalities. So just trying to, surf it anytime it breaks really. And, I worked pretty closely with Matt Biolos and Mike Parsons as well to try to get all my boards dialed, and I should be getting like 10 new boards today. So that's really exciting. And, I'm looking forward to it. I've been surfing T Street the last couple of days. I don't know how good a Pipeline practice that is, but
it's the Pipeline of the West Coast is the San Clemente community like to call it, right?
Yeah. For sure. But I'll be heading over there tomorrow, so I'll be getting there nice and early. And looks like there's gonna be a lot of days to get out there before the waiting period starts. So that's always really exciting. And I'm just trying to put my head down and just I guess go for it and enjoy my time out there and really embrace the challenge, because it's obviously scary and new and but that's exciting. So I'm looking forward to it.
It's such an interesting thing because they've been hosting events at Pipeline since 1971. It's been a staple of the World Tour since the World Tour's inception in 1976. There's never been a women's event there before, a CT event, until now. But I think it's one of those spots where the disconnect between the photos you see and the reality is maybe as stark as it gets, right? Because when I was a kid, you're looking at magazines and you're like, that's a very nicely shaped barrel, and that looks pretty cool, like standing right in that. That must be pretty easy. And you get there and you realize, like, holy crap, like the lineup itself is this living entity. All these people, it's shifting around, like backdoor is an entirely other situation. Have you kind of found, I mean, you kind of said it before, where the more time you spend out there, the more comfortable you're going to get. But it just feels like even trying to train out there is a pretty wild experience.
Yeah, for sure. No, you said it. You kind of nailed it, Dave. You said, yeah, when you look at Pipeline, you're like, it's kind of something you draw in your notebook as a little kid. And then you get out there, you're like, this is a lot scarier than I pictured. But it's beautiful. And, you know, Pipeline is one of the most dangerous, if not the most dangerous wave in the world. And there's a reason why everyone's wearing helmets out there. And it's so crazy. But what's really exciting to me about Pipeline is, you know, you could get the wave of your life out there, and that's so exciting and so rad. And it is definitely terrifying, and the crowd too. I think the crowd factor makes it that much more scary. And you know, there's so many people sitting in like a one little pack. But like I said, I think what's really important is just spending a ton of time out there. And you know, sometimes it takes a few hours just to get one wave. And you know, if that's what it takes to get a wave out there, then so be it. And you know, obviously willing to put in the work to get a great result out there. And like I said, I'm just really looking forward to the challenge. And I'm excited to push myself, and stoked to be part of this moment in history. You know, there's never been a CT event out there for the females. So that'll be sick. And all the girls are so gnarly now. And I do believe we will do very well. And hopefully we have a great forecast. And yeah, it should be really fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. Well, let's talk about last season, which was really kind of two seasons, right? Because we had the non-season of 2020 when it felt like every few months we're like, well, we'll see. We might get the tour back up, and that clearly
hurry up and wait.
Yeah, it's like this is the most radical hurry up and wait situation we've ever had, and that kind of bled into the recommencement with the adjusted sort of COVID calendar in 2021. And it's funny, like in preparing for this, like I've had the privilege of knowing you for a few years now since you were on tour. And in my brain, I knew that you started very young, but when I was like, oh, we're going to talk, she's like in her 20s somewhere. And I'm like, no, she's 19. It's like, she's going to turn 20 here in a couple of weeks. And I'm like, well, she's so mature. This is going to be great anyway. But you had a few wild cards. Your first full season on tour was 2018, finished 7th in your rookie season, got 3rds at Bells Beach, US Open, Surf Ranch. 2019, huge jump. You finish world runner-up. You win on the Gold Coast. You win in Portugal. We have the non-season of 2020, and then this really hectic year in 2021. And even your season getting started was tricky with, you know, a false positive COVID test and getting into Australia. Can you talk to us a little bit about how the beginning of the 2021 season unfolded for you, and where your head was at once you finally put your jersey on there?
Yeah, for sure. Wow, no, it's so interesting you say like the 2020 season. I think a lot of last year at the 2021 season, I was always going, oh yeah, last year, you know, I had such a great year last year. And I'm like, wait a second, that was 2 years ago. So it feels like, yeah, that whole year was not wasted, but it just flew by, and there was no events, and, you know, a lot of hurry up and waiting and stuff like that. But yeah, last year, starting with the false positives, definitely never a way you want to start. That's, you know, definitely created a lot of anxiety and uncertainty, and just like, oh my God, like what the heck's going on? And, you know, I think last year COVID was still like very new to everyone. And, you know, it was the first event that we were going to be competing at in a couple of years. And I remember like talking with Lakey and, you know, even Kalohe, like a few of the surfers around here going, oh my God, can you imagine if someone tests a false positive? Like, can you imagine if someone gets it? Like, surely there's going to be one person, like surely. And, you know, sure enough, I was that one person. And I'm grateful no one else tested positive. And, you know, obviously I'm grateful it was a false positive, but, yeah, pretty wild. I was just so thankful that I was able to get there, and, thankful that I was able to make all those events, you know, because, you know, to be honest, when I tested positive, I was like, oh, like I'm screwed. Like my whole title season, my whole year, like I might as well I was like planning on going to Indo and just working on my surfing. And and just seeing like, all right, I guess I'll just make a movie this year or do something different, because my competitive season for a world title is out the window. Obviously I'll do events after Australia, but as far as winning a world title, which is obviously, my goal is just like, I can't do it if I'm missing half the season. So just grateful I was able to get there. And I think that whole experience just made me really appreciate the little things. Like I remember I was in quarantine writing down, like just feeling my toes in the sand and giving my friend a hug and, going out for a coffee, like going outside, like things like that. So, and it just made competing that much more special. And I think that win in Narrabeen was like a pretty emotional one for me, just because I kind of just all that stuff, I went through, and, getting there late and then quarantining and still being in quarantine when everyone else was out surfing and missing the flight and all those things. But, yeah, it just made me that much more grateful and that much more fired up. So, definitely, yeah, wild way to start the year, but, it ended up working out. So that's cool.
It's interesting, right? And I wanted to get into this with you as well, because you are still such a preternatural super talent, right? Where you qualified very, very young. And you hear this all the time with young athletes, regardless of what sport they're in. And when they come on, everything's fresh and there's not really a ton of pressure, because you're like, well, it's all kind of a bonus. I got nothing to lose. I'm just going to surf my best, or I'm going to compete my best, or whatever it is. And it felt like you kind of touched on it, like that trajectory for you is like 7th and then runner up. And then all of a sudden you're the North American title contender, and it's like, well, 2021, I'm here to win a world title. And then getting that false positive, kind of having the mental approach and the psychological approach to your season upended a little bit, right? Where you're saying, well, if I can't make it to Oz, I'll go to Indo and I'll just train, kind of thing. But the world title's off the map. Obviously you rallied and had that great win in Narrabeen, but even the way the season unfolded, where everyone wakes up in Mexico at the end of the season, Tahiti's been canceled, and you find yourself outside the WSL Final 5 and not going to the Rip Curl WSL Finals at lower Trestles, it must have just been frustrating, where it's like, Jesus, like I think most people would have said, you're almost a walk-up start for qualifying for Trestles because of Tahiti and because of the footage you've put out of yourself surfing there, and everyone felt very confident you would do well there. In Mexico, was it hard for you to wrestle with the fact that you weren't going to be in the Rip Curl WSL Finals when you guys found out about Tahiti?
Yeah. Well, thank you. I definitely, it was a bit of a bummer not to be in the top 5. I think, yeah, honestly, that was really shitty. I was pretty bummed. That was definitely a really low point in my year. I'm very aware of how good everyone is and how gnarly everyone is, but I did see myself in the top 5. I just felt really good and confident, and felt like I was surfing great. I think I was actually, out of the whole year, I feel like my best surfing was in the free surfs leading up to Barra, and I was like, okay, let's do this. I just was excited. It was a new wave. I was like, I knew I had my back against the wall, which, I feel like I was kind of embracing that. I was like, all right, cool. I know I need to perform, and like, let's do this. And, when I came in that heat after I lost to Malia, the first text I got was that Tahiti was canceled. So I actually didn't even know that Tahiti was canceled, paddling out. I had no idea. And then I came in, lost, and then I saw that text, and it was just all kind of piled down on one. And I was like, that sucks, and not even that, like, regardless of me having the chance to be in the top 5 or not, I just really wanted to go to Chopu and catch some waves out there and be out there alone and, maybe get like a nice barrel or two. But obviously it was more of a bummer because I feel like that was a big opportunity to be in the top 5. And then, having the top 5, the final event at lowers, right, kind of in my backyard. I was definitely looking forward to that. But I think, I know everything happens for a reason. It's only my fault. So that really stung. And I went down there and watched, and it was really hard not being in that. But I think it kind of lit an extra fire for me to just work extra hard and be like, okay, I really don't want to miss it next year. And that really, really stung. So definitely not a way I wanted to end the season. But like I said, it's already the 2022 season's already coming up, and I'm really fired up. So it should be fun.
What did you, since you were down there, what did you think of the surfing performances at the Rip Curl WSL Finals, and had you been part of that top 5, do you give yourself a good chance for having won on the day, right? Because you would have seen everyone surfing and how well they surfed, or maybe in some cases, maybe not surfing as well as they could have because of whatever reason. Do you think that you would have been a shot for the world title had you been in the finals last year?
I'd like to think so. I think if you're in the top 5, you definitely, I think last year Carissa and Gabriel were so far ahead of everyone else points wise. But I do believe like everyone in that final 5, especially like in the top 3, were very capable of finishing number 1, especially, with just it all coming down to that one day. Everyone really has an equal opportunity. So, I do surf lowers all the time. I've had a lot of success there as an amateur and a junior. And that's where I got my first wild card when I was 13 to the Swatch event. So yeah, I definitely like to think I would have had a great chance, and the waves are really good. That's like those are the best conditions, some of the best conditions I've ever seen at lowers. So that was really cool to see. And what really stood out to me was, Gabriel's performance was pretty phenomenal. I know, it's crazy, being so far ahead. Him and Carissa really had everything to lose, and they both performed and they got it done, which was pretty incredible. And I remember watching Tati beat Carissa in that one heat, and I was like, holy smokes, it's the whole year's coming down to this one heat. And if it was any other year, she would have won the title, like in the last event even maybe, and she would have clinched it in Mexico. So that was pretty crazy to watch. But yeah, the waves were phenomenal, and that made it 10 times worse. I was like, oh my God, it's firing, of course. But it was super cool. That I'm stoked that, the WSL got amazing waves, and they got amazing waves to perform on. And Gabriel was doing backflips, and Carissa was doing big carves. So it was really, really cool to watch and really inspiring. So that was fun.
Yeah, in the women's world title, when you say it came down to one day, it came down to one maneuver, right, with Tatiana. And there was that kind of, and I was up with the judges after the event, and I kind of asked them, like, well, if she hit that last section and completed it, which on the day she'd actually hit more kind of radical, critical sections and been fine, would she have gotten the score? And they said 100%, and it was just that funny kind of in between, like her second and third maneuver, she wasn't sure if she was going to do 2 or one big one, got a little bit hung up and didn't finish that wave. And it's wild that the world title came down to that moment in a lot of ways. That was hugely entertaining.
No, absolutely. It's so crazy too, because I feel like even in the 2019 season, for myself, I remember I had a wave against Stephanie in the quarters, and I know that the day before I had clinched the Olympic spot, and the next day I was like, okay, now I got to focus on the world title. And I remember falling on this turn, and I just remember maybe if I would have made that maneuver, I probably would have made that heat, and then I would have been against Carissa for the world title in the next heat. So it's crazy how, I honestly, like, every heat, every little moment, it kind of, every heat is a world title heat. And it's crazy when you look back, you're like going, oh my God, that one little turn or that one little thing. And I know that must have really stung for Tatiana, and especially, getting all the way to lowers and having such a great season, and knowing she would have got the score if she would have just made that maneuver. And that's really what it comes down to when you're in that top 3 or top 2 picture. It comes down to one little decision or turn or moment, and it's crazy. And that's what makes it so special when you win, because it really all needs to come together to get that top spot. So
yeah, I think you make such a good point, right? Because every year since 1976, it always comes down to a moment, and I think with the redesign, the idea is, okay, can we design it in a way so that the moment happens between the best surfers of the season at a world-class wave in the final heat of the year, which it was great to see. And as we announced today, this is a week before this is coming out, but we announced today, we will be going back to lower Trestles. So you're going to have another crack at it in September if the season works out for you.
Yeah, I know. I actually did a call yesterday with Eric and Jesse and a few of the other surfers, and we heard that it was come back to lower, so I definitely wasn't mad at that news. And yeah, another chance to be, hopefully fighting for a title at lowers this year, and that's definitely going to be a really big focus for me this year. And I'll do everything I can to get there. So yeah, that's epic. I'm very happy on that news.
You mentioned qualifying for the Olympics, which for as topsy-turvy as 2021 was, that must have been an incredible experience to be a part of. And I know you've talked about it quite a lot, but can you kind of give us like a summary of being in Japan for this historic moment, how the waves treated you, the competition, et cetera, et cetera? And I know it wasn't the result you wanted, but must have been amazing to be a part of it.
Yeah, the Olympic experience was, it was incredible. I definitely think one of, if not, highlights of the year, and definitely, one of the highlights of my life. It was really, when I was there, it was crazy. I had like zero idea what to expect. I didn't watch any videos. I just didn't know anything about the wave or what it'd be like. And to be honest, I never really watched the Olympics growing up because surfing was never in the Olympics. So I just didn't really care. I was like, all I care about is surfing. And, obviously I'd watch Simone Biles and Lindsey Vonn and, little snippets and things like that. But I really just had no idea what to expect. And in a way, I think that was really special because I just had no expectations. And no matter what happened, I was just like, this is going to be such a rad experience. And it exceeded all expectations. And now that I've been there, I think I can see why the Olympics is such a massive deal and why it means so much and why it's such a big deal to win and podium and to be there and be the Olympian and stuff like that. So it was phenomenal and so cool that we got to go to Japan. And, it was awesome. We had waves provided for us because leading up to the event, it was pretty much flat. So, and we had the sickest team ever, really. Like we all, stayed in the house together and it was like one big family kind of. It was actually kind of sad leaving. Like I remember I was kind of like bummed. I was like, oh, I feel like we all like bonded really well and, serving such an individual sport. So it was kind of fun to root on, your teammate, even though we were all there to obviously, win our individual medals. We wanted our teammates to do good. We wanted, I wanted to be in the final with Carissa and I wanted John and Chloe to be in the final together. So that was really fun and definitely a memory and a time I'll never forget and I'll cherish forever. So it was really special.
We joked about it at the start of the conversation about, your maturity notwithstanding, you're still only 19 and you've just been on this unbelievable kind of rocket train the last few years in terms of your trajectory from qualifying to really becoming the North American standard bearer for performance and our title contender for this region, the Olympics and contracts and all of this kind of having to grow up and become an adult, which you're still probably in the process of becoming in a pretty bright spotlight. Like, like none of us, like most of us don't have to do that. Like we're allowed to make mistakes and screw up and it's no one sees it. It's just your parents slapping you in the head or something. But it just seems like such a radical thing in terms of creating stress. I'm wondering if after last year, after Mexico, after watching the finals go down, we had this gap, right, in the last couple of months. Did you do anything to decompress or did you need to? Maybe you didn't, but I'm curious how you kind of allow yourself to recharge after, a chaotic couple of years and before the start of the 22 CT.
Yeah, no, that's a great point to bring up. I definitely have the personality of kind of just all or nothing and just go and never stop. And, like you said, I'm still a teenager, so I have tons of energy and I just want to do everything. I want to surf 100 hours a day and train 100 hours a day and go out at night with my friends and dance till 4 a.m. and just like do everything, and that's just, I guess have the energy to do that. And I think last year, to be honest, I think I just put a lot of pressure on myself and, in the 2019 season, just having, being so close to that title, making the Olympics, I was like, anything worse than second is kind of a bad year. And that's pretty crazy because it's so hard to get second. And, so I really, I guess if in my head, I was like, if I don't win the title, this is a bad year, which is so wild to think. And, where I think the 2019 season, I was more focused on just surfing my best. And I think that's kind of the one thing I really reflected on this last year. And, coming into this next season, I really just want to focus on my performance and just try to be the best surfer I can possibly be and really push myself every day and push myself in the water. And, whether I'm in Hawaii and it's whether like, trying to take off on, the biggest wave of my life or, trying to work on a certain maneuver, like that's what I really want to focus on. And I know results will come with that. And like you said, I'm only 19 and there really should be no pressure right now. And, obviously my ultimate goal is titles and gold medals and stuff like that. But, it's going to take, me surfing my best to do that. And I think if I focus on that, the rest will take care of itself. And I did spend a lot of time, back on the East Coast over the holidays with my family and just really was able to decompress. I think it's kind of hard for me to decompress in California because there's waves all the time. But in Florida, I'm like, oh, it's flat again. All right, I'll just cruise today. So it was super nice just to even spend a month there and just get that family time. I was still surfing a bunch and having fun, but just being a kid and just going on the boat and going fishing and things like that. And I feel energized and ready, and I'm really excited. I do think that downtime is important, even though it's hard for me to do that, but I think it's very important. And I'm just excited to surf my best this year and focus on that. And I think the rest will take care of itself.
Geez, I don't think I could have designed a better segue, because we're going to take a quick break to get a word in from our sponsors. And when we come back, we're going to dive into just where the hell you came from. So we'll be right back. So you just mentioned getting to go back and spend a month back home in Florida on the East Coast, and how that was very helpful in terms of decompression. But tell us a bit more about that. Like, where were you born? Where were you raised? What was your family like? Mom, dad, siblings? Where did Caroline Marks come from?
I came from South Florida. I think, Boca Raton Hospital is where I was born. I should know that like confidently, but I don't. But yeah,
that is what it says on your Wikipedia page. Just for
okay, cool. All right, we'll go with that. And then, I grew up in a little town called Melbourne Beach. I think the population was like 1,000. Very small town. I literally would surf with my school teachers and my tutors, and all my friends were just in this little neighborhood, and everyone kind of knew everyone. There was one grocery store, one restaurant, and I'd ride my little dirt bike or my bike to check the waves. And we didn't even need a car. You literally just, ride your bike everywhere. And the ocean was in front of us and the lake was behind us. So we just surf and fish all day, just go back and forth and never wear shoes and just whatever, just such a grom. I grew up in Melbourne Beach, Florida, and then, moved out to California when I was about 12 years old, and still would go back and forth a lot to Florida. But just would come out here for the summer times. Florida gets pretty flat in the summer, so I would just surf lowers out here in the summers, and then permanently moved out here when I was about 15, and then I qualified when I was 15, and it's kind of never really looked back since then. So it's been fun. A lot's happened. It's crazy. I don't really ever reflect on what's happened, but a lot's happened in such a short amount of time. So I've enjoyed the ride for sure.
Well, how did you get into surfing back in Florida? Did your dad or your mom surf? Your older brothers? Like, what was your entry point?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting because I was, I feel like I kind of did everything as a kid. I played softball, I played tennis, I played soccer. I even took golf lessons, like a lot of just random stuff. And then I horseback rode for a while, and that was kind of something that I thought I was going to do, which is so different than surfing. It's all about being on land and inland and away from the ocean. And I remember my brothers would like ride their dirt bikes while I'd horseback ride, and that was just kind of our life. And my oldest brother, Luke, he would do the pro juniors and the amateur events, and he was a very successful amateur and junior. And, he started doing the QS as well. And I just kind of thought like, surfing was his thing, and, I'd ride horses, and that's just my life for the rest of my life. And then I remember, something just clicked in my mind when I was about like 9 years old, and I was like, I just want to impress my brothers. Like, that's all I care about. I don't care what I need to do, but I just want to make them stoked on me. And so I was like, well, they love surfing, so I guess I got to start surfing. And I started surfing, and I got into it literally because of my brothers, and I really just wanted to impress them and them to think I was cool. And that's like literally where it all started. So I would travel with my
They
brother.
weren't impressed with the horseback riding?
I mean, they thought it was cool, but obviously, not as cool as surfing, not as cool as surfing. They were like, whatever, yeah, whatever. But when I did something that they were super into, they're like, okay, like now this is cool. So, and honestly, there's just nothing better. Like to this day, like there is nothing better than going out with my family and surfing with all my brothers, and because that's like how I got into it. And to this day, I still try to impress them. Like I had a day at the wave pool, and I brought my whole family, and I was like, oh my God, all I want to do is rip in front of them. That's all I care about. Like, I just want them to say, like, that was a sick turn. Like, that was a nice barrel. Like, that's it. That's all I want.
Where's that from, though? Were they pretty stingy with the compliments growing up? Because I feel like in terms of impressing your brothers, I feel like that ship sailed a long time ago. You've done that many times over.
I hope so. They are my biggest supporters, and they're so supportive and amazing. But I'm not going to lie, there was a few tears when I was younger, a lot of constructive criticism and a lot of honesty. But, I appreciate it because that's, they're a huge reason that, the position I'm in today, they're a huge reason for that. And I'm so grateful for that. And I wouldn't change it for the world. And, we used to run like little mock heats behind my house and get so competitive and come home crying. And my mom's like, what happened now? And I'm like, Dad underscored me. What? Yeah. So yeah, but they're the best. I love my brothers so much. And it's so special now that I get to travel with them and bring them to all the events and have them there with me. It's incredible. So.
Do you still ride horses?
I don't, I still have a soft spot for horses. Like when I see a horse, I'm like, I love horses. I love animals. I actually used to want to be a veterinarian when I was little. So I just love animals, but I haven't ridden a horse in a while. I think now I'd be kind of scared to be honest, but I think they're very cool and I respect them for sure.
I feel like we got to get you like a cameo in like Yellowstone or 1883 or something. Like,
for sure. Oh my God, sign me up.
Young talent that can ride horses. I feel like that's all Taylor Sheridan gives a shit about. That'd be awesome.
For sure. I just might wear a hazmat suit. So if I fall, I can be protected. I don't know.
That's fine. Florida is such an interesting place to me because, as you pointed out, like it doesn't have world-class surf every day. I think that's an understatement, but it seems to produce this outsized amount of world-class surfers. I remember when I first started at the ASP, which was 16 years ago, the first event I traveled to was the Globe SI Pro at Sebastian Inlet. First time I've been to the East Coast for surfing. And I was with the judges and tour manager. We went and surfed one day and it was kind of like junky onshore surf. And I'm like, yeah, this is fine. Whatever, it's a couple feet. And then overnight, we woke up the next day. We actually were staying in West Melbourne, which was an experience. But we woke up and it was offshore. And I'm like, oh, this will be so fun. And then they're like, no, it's actually really bad. If it's offshore, it's dead flat.
Dead flat.
I'm like, how does this place produce like Kelly Slater and Lisa Anderson and like the Hobgoods and the Lopez brothers and,
Frida Zamba. Yeah, the list goes on. It's crazy. Yeah. Oh, no, it is so crazy. Like, you're so right. And I think a big part of the reason why there's such great surfers that come out of Florida, I think I just feel like no one from Florida is really jaded. We can't be. We grew up surfing not the best waves. And I think it just, when we do get to travel and we do see great waves, we're like, we're so frothed. And I think that is such a big part of being a great surfer is not being jaded and just really loving it, just really loving surfing. And I think all those people you just mentioned just purely love surfing. You see Kelly and I see Lisa, when I just went back home, I see her, surfing Smyrna and stuff like that. Like they don't have to, but they do it. And that's so cool because they just genuinely love it. And that's a big reason why I think they got, they're so successful in their careers is because they just purely love surfing. So it's cool.
I think that's a good point. You mentioned early motivation for you at 9 when you switched focuses was to make your brothers be proud of you. Was there a moment between then and when you moved to California when you realized yourself like, oh, I might be good at this, like this might be like a career thing for me? Was it like a surfing performance that you remember, or was it getting a sponsor or a new sponsor? Was it a competition, or maybe it wasn't, maybe it was just sort of a gradual thing, but I'm curious if you had like an epiphany where you went, this is going to be my life.
Yeah, no, I definitely did have a clicker moment. I think I was incredibly oblivious until I had that clicker moment, to be honest. And that clicker moment for me was, when I did the Surfing America Prime and the NSSA Nationals. I think I was 11. Yeah, I think I was 11, and I did the U12 girls at lowers, and I was just incredibly oblivious. I was like, oh my God, there's a huge scaffolding. Like, all these girls are so gnarly. Like, the waves are big. What the heck? Like, what's going on? And I just really entered it because my brother did it. And I was like, sure, I'm here, might as well enter it. And I remember winning the U12 girls and, hearing of all the girls that were in the final with me. I heard about them and how good they were. And I was like, well, if I beat them, then that means I'm pretty good too. And I just remember that was kind of the clicker moment for me. I got sponsored by Fox, and, my brothers carried me up the beach, and I got this big trophy and all this attention. And I was like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever. I just surfed perfect waves. And I just, I got this massive trophy, and it was just the coolest moment ever. And I think that was kind of the clicker moment for me. And I was like, all right, I definitely want to do this for the rest of my life. Like, there's nothing better than this. And I just never really looked back since then. And then went out the next summer for the next round of events. And I think I entered every single division, from U12 girls to U18 girls and Explore women's, Explore girls to Open. I surfed like a million heats in one day, and I ended up winning every single final. And I was like, all right, I think I'm pretty good at this, and I think I'm going to stick with it. So, but definitely a lot of support from my family, and having my brothers say like, hey, you're good, like, you should keep going at this. I was like, all right, because obviously I really respect what they think. So those are kind of the clicker moments for me. And I'm glad I chose surfing because it's so much fun.
Of course. Yeah. And it's interesting, like you said before the break, of like, for you, you're like, I'm at 100 all the time. I want to just keep going and going and going. And I remember we had Ryan Callanan on the podcast, and he was talking about his knee injury, which I didn't know about. And he had this really radical knee injury. And it was one of those things where he basically couldn't get better unless he stopped surfing every day. But he said this thing that I thought was really profound. He goes, surfing's so fun that it's so impossible to say no to it, right? Where it's like, yeah, I want to get another wave. I want to surf another session. I want to go on a boat trip. I want to do another contest. Like, it's always yes, because it's fun. He goes, but it's hard to pace yourself because of that, in the sense of like, okay, I have to balance my life a little bit. I can't keep going. And in his case, he couldn't keep going physically the way he was because his knees would have given out on him, right? But it is just one of those things, as you said, it's so fun where you go like, I just want to keep doing everything, free surf trip, another session, another contest, let's do it.
Oh, absolutely. And that's like one of the things, like you said, that's so cool about surfing and so unique, is that it never gets old. Like, there's a reason why there's people that surf until they can't walk anymore. They're out there on a longboard or whatever. And it's just every session, like, the waves are new. Like, every wave is different. Like, there's no such thing as the same wave. And it just never gets boring because it's just, always fresh and new. And like you said, there's so many waves you can surf. And I feel like chasing swells and, working on a specific maneuver, like, you can really never master surfing. And I think that's just what keeps you going forever and ever and ever. And it's just the most fun thing in the world. And I don't know, there's nothing like it. So yeah, he made a really good point. He's right. Surfing is the best. And it's just so fun. That's really it. It's so fun.
You mentioned, the support of your family, and I've had the privilege of meeting, your parents and your brothers, and they are incredibly supportive. So much of your success competitively and sponsorship wise and sort of really international stage wise has come at such a young age. It feels like it was almost essential to have like a very strong supportive family group around you for you to navigate that as well as you have.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so grateful for my family and, my friends as well, my coach, trainer, everyone. It really does take a team to, get where you want to get. And, a lot of what we do is mental, because at a certain level, everyone is so good and so talented and works so hard that it does come down to having that amazing support crew. And I'm really fortunate that mine's my family. And I made it like a thing this year where I'm like, I really want to bring someone from my family to every event. I think last year, with COVID, kind of just not really being able to bring, my family or just kind of only, being able to bring like one person, I think it made me really realize how important it is to have that, support crew around you and support system. And that's what makes our journey so special, is getting to share it with the people that you love the most. And sometimes when I'm on the road, what gets me most stoked is watching my brother get a really good wave and seeing that smile on his face. And that makes me so stoked. And sometimes I remember that more than, a good contest result or something. So, it is really special. And like I said, I'm grateful for it. And I'm stoked that, my brothers surf as well. And that's so cool. I get to bring them everywhere and we just surf all day and eat great food and make great memories. There's nothing better.
Yeah, that does sound real. It's very cool to have something extra to be surfing for sure. Earlier, you mentioned when you're back on the East Coast, you would surf with your school teachers and then your tutors. At some point, you started doing homeschool, I'd imagine, just because of the training schedule and the travel schedule and opting to pursue a career. Is that right?
Yeah. I started homeschool, I think, I was in 5th grade, I remember, because that's when I'd come out to California a lot. And so, yeah, just with like my travel schedule and stuff like that, started doing online from 5th grade onwards, really, and graduated over 2020. I think that was the highlight of my 2020 was graduating high school. And then, yeah, never really looked back since then. I just kept surfing.
No, I've spoken to a bunch of surfers, most of them CT surfers, who had similar experiences where it was, at some point it just became untenable to keep going to public school because of the travel schedule. Do you have any sort of regrets about that? Do you wish like, oh, I wish I'd had those experiences going to school, or you kind of like, oh, I kind of hit the lotto in what I'm doing anyway?
I wouldn't say I have any regrets going to public school. I think that, or being homeschooled, I should say, I think that traveling the world and getting great waves and, sharing those memories with my family and my friends around the world that's way more fun to me than going to prom or homecoming or, whatever. So, definitely don't have any regrets, but I do think school is important and I encourage everyone to go to school. But yeah, I definitely don't have any regrets on that. I feel like I hit the lotto, like you said. So all I really want to do is surf.
Yeah, I went to a couple proms and everyone's mileage may vary, but getting to go to Cloud Break it's up there. So
yeah, for sure. And there's nothing wrong with like prom, all that stuff is so cool. But I think for me personally, I just rather, go chase a really nice swell and try to get barreled. And that sounds way more fun to me.
Now, when you and the family moved to San Clemente, to the West Coast, was that in part or 100% because of your career choice?
I think it started, actually we started coming out to California because of my older brother and him competing. And, I would come out here before I even really started surfing, and I would just watch him at the contest. And, the way my family kind of raised us was we all really support one another. Like no matter how good the waves are, like my brother had to be at my horse race and watch me and be there and support me. And, no matter what I had going on that week, I had to, fly out to California and watch my brother compete. And that's kind of the way, they raised us. And I'm super grateful for that. So it started off with us coming out for my older brother. And, then, I started slowly getting into it. And then, I think, thankfully my whole family really enjoyed California. And like I said, my whole family does surf. So it wasn't like a crazy hard move or like a, big shock or anything. So, it started with my older brother and then, I started getting into it. So then it was kind of like an easy decision just to be out here because of the waves and stuff like that. So.
On last week's podcast, we had Australian filmmaker Justin Gain on, who was a professional surfer, and he's still a damn good surfer before he became a filmmaker. And he was talking about when he was really little, he had one VHS tape, and it was Aki at Bell's, and he would watch it over and over and like freeze frame it and memorize the hand positions and, the body positions and where the head was pointing and everything, and then go out and try to surf like that. And I bring that up because I'm curious if you had any surfers that were your reference points in the way that you developed your own style. And obviously there's a nice tie-in because when you came on tour, everyone was calling you like the next Aki just because of your low center of gravity and how powerful you were and how good your backhand was. And I'm wondering if there was a lot of Aki influence before that moment, or maybe you were looking at other surfers. Who were kind of your touch points when you were growing up in terms of inspiration?
Yeah, no, that's a very flattering compliment. Aki's one of my favorite surfers, and he's so gnarly. His backhand's incredible, and yeah, I definitely think, before I heard those comments, I think I was a little bit oblivious, and just didn't really know. I was like, "What? I'm just surfing like the way I surf," and then I started hearing the Aki comments, and definitely started to like watch more and pay more attention, and I was like, oh my God, he's so gnarly. And now I watch Aki all the time. I also love watching Bobby, and Clay Marzo's another one of my favorites. Those are some of my favorite goofy footers. Yeah, to me, I think growing up, obviously just being from Florida, I think I really was inspired by Kelly Slater and Lisa Anderson. And, I watch them all the time. But yeah, just being compared to Aki is, incredibly flattering. And I take a lot of notes from him now, that's for sure. Always watching.
And you mentioned, the first time you competed at lowers was as in the CT, it was as a wild card at 13, 2015 Swatch Women's Pro. And I think that made you the youngest female ever to compete in a CT event at the time. You get another wild card in 2017 at the Roxy Pro France, and then you qualify for the 2018 tour. I think you were maybe 15 when you qualified, maybe you turned 16 during that year. Caitlyn Simmers recently qualified for the championship tour, but declined her spot. And she is the same age or very similar age as you were when you did. What were your thoughts when you heard about Caitlyn's decision, and reflecting back on when you made your decision? Are there any sort of comparisons or contrasts that you kind of noticed?
Yeah. No, I think it's super cool that Caitlyn made like that decision herself. I actually personally didn't really get to talk to her about it, but I did hear some rumors in Hawaii that, maybe some people were saying she wasn't going to do it. And I was just kind of like, oh, okay. Like, I just hope whatever that decision is, I just hope like it's her decision, not other people influencing. And,
right.
I know she has a great family, a great support system. And, that was really cool, because I was like, if she does do it, she is going to have a great support system, which is very important. And, obviously she's very talented and did qualify at such a young age, and that is super hard to do. So it was a big decision to, deny the spot. But I think, for her, I think she's just wants to be a Grom still, and she wants to just kind of, not, I guess, when you do qualify for the tour, it is, it's a whole nother level of, focus and, pressure and traveling. And so I think if she was having any bit of doubt, I think it was a good idea that she did decline the spot. And, like I said, she's so young and has so many years to, qualify again whenever she's ready. So I think it's super cool that she was like, hey, I'm not ready. And I'm stoked that I made it. But, when I'm ready, I'll try to go for it again. And I really respect that. So I thought it was super cool. And like I said, I'm happy it was her decision that she made herself. And I really believe, if you're not like 100% all in on it, then you probably shouldn't do it. So, yeah.
It's a good way to look at it. What about you? Did you have any doubts when you qualified, or are you just like, this is where I'm supposed to be, I'm frothing, let's go do it?
I definitely, it was definitely very nerve-wracking. And I was, the year I qualified, I wasn't trying to qualify. I was mainly doing those events and just to get experience and to surf waves in different countries. And, it was my first time to Australia and first time competing against, the big dogs. And that was kind of my plan that year, is just to get, that experience. And, when I did qualify, I was definitely like, holy cow, like, and I was like, that happened fast. That's crazy. I wasn't expecting that. And I also, when I qualified, it was kind of just myself. Like it was like me and then everyone else. And I feel like I didn't really have that younger generation to qualify with. So it was definitely a massive decision. And, for me, I had no idea what to do. I was very like, I don't know what to do. Like, I just looked at my coach and my parents, and I was like, whatever you guys think, like, I know you guys know me better than I know me. So whatever you guys think, I will do. And, I think just talking to Mike, I really obviously honor what he says. And he was like, hey, like, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're just going to travel and get an incredible experience. Just know that just don't base your happiness off results. You know, it's going to be hard. You're going to have some hard moments. You're going to have some great moments, and let's go for it. And I think once I made that decision to go for it, I did feel really confident in it. And, you know, obviously that was like my ultimate dream, was to be on the world tour. So I'm really happy I made that decision. But yeah, it is definitely nerve-wracking. You're like, you think about it and you get there and you're like, oh my God, okay, let's do this. And I was very fortunate to have such a great support crew and stuff like that. And also getting those wild cards, I think, helped me a lot. And that gave me a lot of confidence, because I feel like when I did get those wild cards, I was still in like that starstruck, like, holy cow, I have Carissa Moore in my heat. I have Tyler Wright in my heat. And by the time I qualified, it kind of switched to, wow, like, these women are so amazing. I respect them so much, but now I want to beat them. And that's kind of when I knew I was ready, when I started thinking like that. So,
yeah, I think that's such a good perspective too, because even on the men's side, I've seen it time and again, like, you know, wild cards or rookies that are coming with a ton of hype and a ton of attention and are meant to be kind of like paradigm shifting surfers. I've seen them draw often, you know, Kelly, and kind of crumble, just because there's still that starstruck element of like, oh my God, it's Kelly Slater. I can't beat the guy. He's a poster on my wall. You know what I mean? And there's been very few surfers I've noticed, especially on the men's side, that have had that ability to come in and be like, no, it's my time now. Owen Wright kind of comes to mind as really one of the only ones that, as a wild card, came in and really stuck it to the sort of the alpha predators on tour in a lot of ways, because a lot of the other ones would sort of maybe better surfers, or certainly better surfers for the conditions they competed in, but would kind of crumble psychologically under the weight. And it wasn't just Kelly, it'd sometimes be Mick or Joel or whoever. And you're kind of watching this happen, and it's baffling. So it's interesting that you pointed out, like, I got that out of my system with those wild cards. And by the time I was a rookie, I was ready to battle.
Oh, absolutely. And it also too, like, another thing that factors in is, you know, you come up against, you know, someone like Sally or Carissa and or Stephanie, and you're like, wow, like, I'm surfing against them at Margaret River and they've been here 12 years in a row and this is my first time. So that's another factor too. You know, you can't really buy experience. You have to just, you know, you can't buy, like, you just have to spend the time out there. And that was also another big thing for me, is I was like, I'm just gonna not put any pressure. You know, I do expect a lot from myself, and I do put a lot of pressure on myself, but I just tried to just have fun and enjoy it. And I was like, hey, I have nothing to lose. Like, I'm 15, 16. Like, I just, you know, if anything, like, they don't want to lose to me. You know, I'm such a grom. And I think just knowing that really helped me, you know, just surf and just be a grom. And no matter what the result was, I knew I was just gaining experience. And I really looked at that year as like, hey, if I'm not winning, I'm learning. And I think that really helped me just kind of, you know, serve my best and not, I guess, crumble in a way. But it is hard, because, you know, you do have posters of all these, you know, people on your wall, and then you're, you know, sitting shoulder to shoulder with them in an event that you've dreamed about, you know, doing since you're a little girl. So it's pretty crazy, but it's really special, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
You know, and I'd imagine too that the redesign of the tour and the redesign of the schedule, and Katie is an incredible surfer, and I'm sure she's gonna have an amazing career, but is maybe even more daunting now, especially if you're looking at the rookie class and you're like a young rookie like Caitlyn would have been. And it's like, okay, hold on. Like, going back to your experience note, I have to start at Pipe and then go to Sunset Beach and then Super Tubos in, like, you know, maximum swell winter time, and then Bells and Margaret River. Like, there's not really like an easy venue to kind of like cut your teeth on in those first five. It's pretty daunting.
No, absolutely. That's such a great point. And, you know, I know, you know, someone like Caitlyn, you know, she is only 16 and she's still growing, and, you know, like, she's still, still growing. And I think that when you come up against, you know, like the, you know, older girls like, you know, Carissa and Stephanie, you know, they're full blown women. And, you know, that's pretty gnarly to come up against, you know, at venues like that, where, you know, they have a lot of experience and they're super powerful and they're very confident, and they don't take any prisoners, and that's really what it takes to get to the top. So that is a great point. You know, the start of the season is like, I was joking with Lakey, I'm like, what are we on the big wave tour now? We're going Pipe, Sunset, you know, Portugal. And it is a pretty awesome schedule. But you are right. There is no event that's like, oh, like little beach break, it'll be fun and rippable. And, it's more of, yeah, it's a heavy water, bigger board, stuff like that. So it'll be fun and exciting. And yeah, the schedule's this year's a lot different. So I'm excited to see how it unfolds.
The physical maturation point, such a good one, both on the men's and women's tours. As far as you kind of consider yourself with all the training you do you feel like you have matured into sort of adult physical condition at the moment, or do you still think you got some growing or some work to do in that space?
I'd like to think I'm still growing, but I think I think I've done most of my growing for sure. And no, I do feel like even, when I qualified at a young age, I did feel like I kind of I feel like I was already kind of like grown into a woman at that young of an age. I feel like personally just my body, whatever, it just matured really fast. And I did feel like I've always had, bigger legs and bigger thighs and was able to have that power. And, I think I'm grateful for that, because that's what it does take to go up against the gnarly girls. And I do feel like, I'm probably, fully grown and considered, I guess not like a little girl anymore, more of like a woman. And no, that's definitely what it takes. And especially like you said, with the schedule coming up, you need to have that power. And power surfing, hasn't died. Like, look at someone like Carissa and Tyler and Stephanie, like they've all won titles because of how strong and gnarly they are. And I think that's, super important.
Such an interesting thing, because you see it again on kind of both sides of the tour, and it impacts so much from, your physical conditioning to the way you approach wave riding to your equipment. And I mean, even, someone that is sort of cemented in the annals of surf history, someone like Nikki Wood, who for a long time was the youngest CT winner ever. I think he won bells at 16. I might have screwed that up, but I think it was 16. And he was sort of the godson of Mark Richards, and he was slated to be like, this Australian title contender for decades and decades. And I think the story goes that he grew something like 12 or 14 inches in 1 year, and it just blew his knees out, and he wasn't able to recover physically and wasn't able to get his equipment dialed. And that was kind of the story of it. And I think similar things happen on the men's and women's side, where it's like you qualify when you're in your teens, you're not in your adult body yet. And that's going to impact, your fitness. It's going to impact like what you can do on the wave. It's going to impact your equipment, like what kind of dimensions you're ordering in your boards. And I'm sure that all goes into what you've gone through in the last few years too, just having to grow up on tour.
Oh, absolutely. I think, you'll hear a lot of people say like, oh, that they're going to be like, their technique is so, I think that's why like a lot of coaches or people look at technique when you're super young, because obviously, when you're, 15, 16, even like 13, 14, whatever, like you don't really have that power yet. And that's why you kind of look at the technique, because you're like, wow, if that person has such great technique, imagine when they get a little bit stronger and they do grow in their body, like they're going to be super gnarly. So that is like the beauty of growing up and getting stronger. And everyone has like a different time of when they do, grow into their body or, get stronger and things like that. And I kind of look at myself as like, wow, I've grown up on the tour. And, I kind of, I don't know, I kind of laugh like looking at myself like when I first qualified it now. And I don't know how much has changed, but it is funny to just like look at it now and see that. But it is true. Like, it is funny. Like you did come up with a good point. Like I said, like a lot of people look at technique when they're younger because, when you're that young, you don't necessarily have that strength yet, which is totally fine. And that's what comes with age. So.
We got a couple more topics and we have our listener questions for you. But first, we're going to take one more quick break to get another word in from our sponsors. We'll be right back. So I heard this story a while ago about LeBron James and how LeBron James, in addition to, all the work that his team and sponsors put into him, spends $3 million of his own dollars every year on his like body work, whether it's like dietitians or like sleep scientists or like, home gyms or whatever. And I'm like, that kind of tracks, because I think I bought like a Swiss ball last year for about $30. So like that's the difference between LeBron and I. But I bring it up because like it's obviously lent itself to him performing at a very high level for so much longer than anyone thought was possible. And I think we've seen a similar thing in surfing lately, whether it's sort of Mick Fanning and his fitness or Kelly and his sort of freakish fitness. But it feels like longevity has become a big part of the equation at the CT level of surfing in recent years. And I bring it up because I'm curious as to, at 19, the road in front of you is completely wide open. How long would you consider doing the championship tour and chasing world titles for?
Wow, that's such a great question. Yeah, I can't see myself really stopping. Like surfing is just, like I said, so much fun. And I haven't even like put a time limit or anything on it. You know, we'll see how long I can go. And like you said, it's pretty incredible, you know, nowadays how long people can go for. And, you know, you made a great point with LeBron James. You know, you look at him and you're going, you know, people are probably listening going, wow, $3 million, like that's a lot of money. But to him, he's like, well, it's all an investment in myself. And, you know, I always laugh at my mom because to me, I kind of have trouble buying like materialistic things that I don't need. But if it has anything to do with surfing, I'm like, let's go. Like anything to help me be a better surfer, like I don't have a problem getting, you know. But yeah, that's it. That's such a great question. And you came up with such a great point because Kelly is, you know, he's such a freak and he's still going and still performing at such a high level. And Mick Fanning and, the list goes on. And I think it's just going to get older and older because of the, you know, all the technology now and, you know, nutritionists and, you know, the trainers and, the list goes on. So there's no really time limit and we'll see how long I can go for.
What is the most kind of like out there thing you do for your own fitness? Is it like cryo chambers? Do you like ice bath? Like what, like, and because I mean, you are incredibly fit and strong and it feels like you're only getting stronger every season. And you obviously work with high profile sponsors that work with high profile athletes and all these other disciplines. I'd imagine that there's at least conversations, if not executions for you in terms of like, let's try this kind of a treatment. Let's try this kind of a workout. What's been one of the things that stood out to you as like, wow, I didn't think I'd do that, but it kind of worked?
Yeah. I do think, for a while it was all about like, you know, doing saunas and stuff like that. And I think like ice bathing and cryotherapy and things like that are all kind of new. And to me, like doing the hot and cold combo has been kind of a game changer. I really only started doing that, you know, a little bit of end of last year. So that's been kind of a new thing for me. And, obviously, you know, the certain training and things like that, you know, Red Bull's been a massive help with that. And, doing certain nutrition tests and realizing, you know, what's the best to put into your body. You know, everyone's so different. So just knowing your body and what's best for you, I think is, you know, key. And there's so many amazing like recovery tools and things you can do that just help you recover so fast. But I'm definitely a baby when it comes to cold, but I do feel really good when I get out of the ice bath, I will say. So that's been really nice.
Yeah, it's so funny, like, because I think, you know, like focus on fitness has been around on tour for a long time. I think people took it very seriously at different phases. You know, you can look back at like Tom Carroll, even Tom Curran. You know, when I started 16 years ago, it had cycled back in and Mick really led the charge of people taking their fitness on tour very seriously. And I think as the prize money got bigger, and I think the sponsor contracts being tied closely to competitive results got more important, and those contracts got bigger and bigger, I think everyone started taking it very seriously. But when I started, it wasn't uncommon to be like, oh, that person, you know, ate gas station food before they went out for their heat, or like those people were out getting hammered the night before, and it just doesn't happen really at all on tour anymore. And I think it's obviously good in terms of personal health. I think it's easy to swing so far into one place that you're like, oh my God, your entire life is being guided by these decisions. We had Nat Young on the podcast a couple episodes ago, and he was saying that after he fell off tour, he goes, I would go to dinner and I would start having a meltdown over whether I should have a breadstick or not. And I'm like, dude, I get it. But he's just like, it starts taking over your life to where you don't have that kind of a balance.
I'm not going to lie. I did grow up on fried chicken and 7-Eleven, Slurpees, being from Florida. But I do think, like Nat came up with such a good point, you know, it can start to take over your life. And, it is really important, no matter whether it's training or surfing or working hard or nutrition. I think it's great to just have an overall balance in life. And, I think, everyone has stuff that works differently for them. And, I'm a bit of a creature of habit. If I eat spaghetti bolognese, the night before I do really good in a contest, I'll have that every night when I'm competing. And that's just kind of the way I work, or some people have to really, switch it up or whatever. So, I don't know, food is fuel, and whatever, makes you feel good in the water is really the way I look at it. I'm like, if this piece of fried chicken is gonna make me rip tomorrow, then let's go. But no, it is important to fuel your body properly, and just for long-term as well. I think that's a huge thing. And but I think just having an overall balance is really important. And, whatever makes you feel good, you should do it. So surfing is a lot of effort. So yeah.
You've had a really productive relationship with Mayhem Surfboards, Matt Biolos. Is that a relationship that started after you moved out to California?
Yeah, it did. I am super grateful for Matt. His whole family is lovely. And, obviously it's so cool that his daughter, paints all of our boards. She's so talented and, so young and, well beyond her years. So, that relationship started when I moved out to California, and, I never really looked back since then. So it's been cool.
And you talked about, shortly after recording this, you're going to be picking up a 10-board quiver for pipe. Question, are those boards both for pipe and sunset? Are some for one spot, not the other? How do you go about that?
Yeah, I was actually on the phone with Mike just before this, and we were kind of, like I told you, I don't really know much about surfboards. That's why I'm grateful I have Matt and Mike and some great people on my corner, because if it was up to me, I'd be riding the door out there. So, I do have specific boards for pipe and, specific boards for sunset. They are two completely different waves. So, I'm excited. I think we're trying some new things. I think for pipe, some different rockers and foams in different places. A lot of the thing that pipe is, catching the wave is very important, your entry into the wave. So where sunset's more of an open faced, a lot of paddling, a lot of carviness and things like that. So two different quivers, but I'm excited about it. And Matt's worked really hard, and he's the best. So I have a lot of confidence in them, and I, really can go to Hawaii with brand new boards and just be confident that they're going to be good. So it's really nice knowing that.
This is one of my favorite questions to ask CT surfers about equipment day to day for them, because they tend to fall into kind of two broad camps. On the one hand, they're the surfers who are like, yep, when I'm competing, I have my Ferrari boards. But when I'm not competing, I'll take out, a fish or a single fin or something kind of wider or something in a different technology just to have some fun. And then the other camp are people who are like, no, I ride my Ferrari every day in every kind of condition because I need that thing as sharp as possible. Considering Mayhem is so well renowned for having such a wide variety of boards, I'm curious as to which camp you fall into. Do you ever get to experiment and play around, or are you just on, I'm keeping my weapons as sharp as possible every session?
I think that the last couple of years I was more about just riding shortboards, and every surf was just, riding a driver and a sub driver, and that's just kind of what I enjoyed. And I think this last year or so, I've gotten way more into riding fishes and different types of models and fun boards. The whole time I was in Florida, I think I rode a fish the whole time, and it was just so fun. And it's cool because you can rip on, and I do believe boards like that are great for your surfing, and it keeps it fresh and fun. And so I do enjoy, learning about different boards and riding different models and shapes like that. And then obviously when it comes to competition time, you do get a little bit more serious and ride your more Ferrari-like boards, and it's things like that. But I remember one year I was on the Gold Coast, the 2019 season actually, and I surfed at the MR Twin Fin the whole week leading up to the contest. It was just so fun. I couldn't get off of it, and then I switched to a shortboard a couple days before I had to compete, and it ended up working out. So everyone's so different, but whatever keeps it fun and fresh, I think is the most important.
We talked about your 2022 goal of qualifying in the WSL Final 5 for the Rip Curl WSL Finals at Lower Trestles, and we're going to get to that in 1 second. But looking at the schedule, it's in 2 halves, right? We have to make the midseason cut to get to the back half. On either side of the cut, we've got Pipeline, Sunset Beach, Super Tubos, Bells Beach, Margaret River. And then the back half, we have Garajagan, Punta Roca in El Salvador, Saquarema, Jeffreys Bay, Tahiti. Which event on each side of the cut are you most looking forward to competing at?
Oh, that is such a great question. You know, I think I've always been a huge fan of Bells. I even like, you know, before I qualified, Mike was like, I think you would really like that way Bells. I just love everything about Australia and that whole area. And I just really enjoy that wave. I've had some great memories there. And, you know, watching Mick retire there actually was a huge highlight of just my life. That was so cool to be a part, just to be there and witness that. But yeah, I just love that wave. And I also am really excited for the challenge of Pipeline. And gosh, that's so hard. You asked me really hard. I love Portugal. Like, I'm just going to say all of them. But yeah, I'd say Bells, Pipeline, Chopu is obviously one that's really hard to steer away from. So I know I might have picked all lefts, but those are my except Bells. But yeah, those 3 waves I'd say. But that's hard. I'm excited about all of them.
I like it. And the Rip Curl WSL Finals has a unique format. It's a linear format where the 5th seed surfs against the 4th seed, the winner surfs against the 3rd seed, the winner surfs against the 2nd seed, and then the winner of that surfs against the number 1 seed for 2 out of 3 for the world title. Presuming you're not the number 1 seed, which number do you want to be in heading into the finals this year?
Oh, that's so hard. You know, I think that it's tricky because if you're not number 1, then second's kind of like third, and third's kind of like fourth, and fourth's kind of like fifth. So, I mean, I will say, you know, watching this year how it played out, first and second did do the best. You know, I think it is important, you know, saving energy, being fresh, things like that. So if I'm up first, then ideally I'd like to come up second or third, because I guess that's really the same. But yeah, ideally you go in there first, but maybe second or third. I don't know. But yeah, you got to get there first. So that's an interesting topic.
It's interesting, right? Because I think you're right. On the women's side, I think the surfers were gassed by the time they got to Tatiana at number 2. And then Tatiana ended up losing to Carissa at number 1. On the men's side, you had Italo surfing in that number 2 spot, which is kind of like the hot seat, you know, like you're coming in cold. You've only got 1 heat to do it compared to the number 1 seed, who at least has 2. And Felipe was able to kind of bulldoze Italo and then get to Gabriel. So it's such an interesting thing. I look forward to seeing how that dynamic plays out in the future. And I absolutely look forward to seeing you as soon as this season competing. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. Thank
you. No, that's a great point. I guess first or third, I guess would probably, it sounds like those are kind of the best numbers to be in, just so you either get a warm up or you're first and you save all your energy and you're just like, all right, I'm putting everything into these first two heats. So it is interesting how it plays out, and yeah, hopefully I'm there to experience it.
I hope so too. Well, we have a few questions from the Instagram community. Our first question is from @WesWeber4, who asks, what is your dream finals destination?
Oh man, that is a great question. I think it'd be pretty phenomenal to be finals destination. I think it'd be pretty phenomenal to win at a wave, like with a lot of history, somewhere like Pipeline or somewhere like Chopu. But it is pretty hard to go past Lower Trestles, pretty much in my backyard, and my whole family would be able to be there. So it's a very hard question, but yeah, I'd say one of those 3 places would be really special.
Yeah, Lowers has got a lot of history too, and even places that don't have history, like Macaroni, so you can throw that in
for sure.
there.
Or I mean, Cloudbreak would be like amazing. That would be Oh my gosh, that'd be incredible. So that's a hard one. I'll sit here and name every surf spot you've ever heard of if you let me sit here long enough.
Well, and we talked about how you're going to be on tour for another 100 years, so you're going to surf a lot of them.
Oh, we'll see. But I enjoy it, so we'll see.
All right. The next question is from C. Lonnie, who asks, do you think the pressure as a star rookie took a toll on your mental health? I guess we talked about that a little bit, but I think that's more of a direct way to ask.
It's a great question. I definitely think that I think last year was the year I kind of put the most pressure on myself, which is weird because it was like my third year on the tour. So maybe a little bit, but I will say I was super fortunate just to have such an amazing support crew. And I think it would have definitely taken a toll on my mental health if I didn't have such an amazing support crew with me. So, yeah.
That's a good answer. Final question from the Instagram community that we selected was from David Belfus, who asks, what long-term goals have you set for yourself that you can share with your fans?
Great question. Long-term goals. I would say, yeah, definitely, world title and gold medal would be my long-term goals. Those are definitely high on my list. And it'd be really cool to also make like a rad movie with a bunch of girls and do something cool like that. So, yeah.
Those are good goals. Well, thanks to the Instagram community. We're now down to our final segment, which is the lightning round presented by Michelob Ultra Pure Gold. These are 10 questions for you to answer as quickly as you can. If you could only have one board setup for the rest of your life, a single fin, twin fin, thruster, quad bonzer, or finless, which would you choose?
Oh, thruster for sure. I think I had a dumb answer last time, so I'm going thruster this time.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee. I've gone on the dark side.
I'm gonna have to compare your answers to when we had the three-person panel.
Last time I did this,
this has changed. I remember.
Yeah, I was like 17 last time, so I'm interesting now. Yeah,
it's a lifetime ago. Yeah,
lifetime.
Burrito or pizza?
Oh, pizza.
Last book you read?
I see how I don't have an answer right away. That's bad. It's really bad. It was actually called The Energy Bus. Yeah, Energy Bus.
That's a pretty quick answer for this podcast. Best surf film ever?
Oh, man. It's a really hard one. It's pretty hard to go away from Kelly Slater Black and White. That's pretty amazing film.
One wave you never have to go back to?
Rottnest Island. That's so bad. I actually like Rottnest, but
that looked pretty fun. Yeah,
I'm not gonna complain if I don't go back. There's definitely way worse waves out there. This is the quickest thing that came to mind. Nothing against Rottnest. I love that wave, but
other side of basically another planet. Yeah.
Yeah. Too far.
If you only get to surf one wave for the rest of your life.
Oh my gosh, that's a really hard one. I love going left and I also love going right. I want to say cloud break, but I feel like that'd be hard. I'd probably have to say Trestles, honestly. Perfect Trestles with nobody out. Be pretty hard to beat that.
That's a good answer. Best person to share a lineup with?
My whole family. The best.
Worst person to share a lineup with?
You're gonna make people hate me if I answer this.
It's okay if you don't want to answer, but you probably have an answer, is my point. You're probably like, I know who it is, but I'm not going to say it.
I absolutely have an answer, but we'll pass on that one. I don't want to upset anyone.
That's fair. I mean, often the answer agnostic of gender is like the top 34 every time.
Yeah. Not gonna lie, there's a few on there that are
they're special
big wave
cases.
hogs.
Yeah. Believe that. Last one. Okay, finish this sentence. I will next achieve a state of happiness by
paddling at a pipeline.
I love it. Caroline Marks, absolute privilege to have you on. Extra special because it's our 100th episode. Congrats on all your success, and we really look forward to watching you here in a couple weeks on the 2022 WSL Championship Tour. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. That was super fun.